to become settled even before we begin. So I have to come into the room, and anyone who might be here, we can all do this together. Big breath. Let it go slowly. Sink into your body even more. Now, big breath. Imagine pulling it down from the top of your head through your body. As it moves down, you are more relaxed each and every moment of your breath movement. One more big breath. Hold it for a bit. Now let it go slowly. Sink into your body. You want to be present. And we are ready to begin. We have so much information to give you today, and we're so happy you're here. And again, we have waited for you your entire lives. We know that many of you do not understand that and have not understood why we've been saying that for so long, but today you might. We're saying you might because you have this tendency of holding back from who you think you are and where you think you're meant to go and what's happening in your lives and your world now. You have been oblivious to many times, but we're going to give you the information. So let's start from the beginning, shall we? In the beginning, you have always existed. Please just get that into your heads. You have always existed. You are eternal spiritual beings. You've always existed throughout time. But what you decide to do is to incarnate into the world on the earth, your earth plane, because there are many other places that do exist that you're starting to find out now. You're starting to discover. Your scientists are at least looking at that now. But there's so many other places that you have existed, but you're existing here on the earth at this time. And you came in to be alive, no matter when you were born, no matter what your age might be now, you were born to be alive during this period of transition in your world, which we have called your restructuring. And that restructuring is something that you wanted to experience because there's something about you that you've been holding back, something about you you didn't accept, that you didn't believe, you didn't know the value of. And so we gave you the message that we have on the screen for you in 2012, because that's the thing that you cannot accept. You cannot believe that we actually did that, you see, but we did because we knew where you would be going. Now, Roger didn't know this. None of you know who you're going to become, what you have, what gifts you have, none of that. You do not understand any of it until it's time for you to actualize it, because then you will help not only your evolutionary journey, but that of your world. Now, why are we saying it's different? It's different for you because you come into the world with very set ideas, beliefs, and your ancestry. We want you to understand this part because this is what's occurring in your world now and why it's important for you to understand. You have come into the world this time with a different DNA than you've ever had, that has ever existed. And that DNA includes the elements of the ancestors who are attached to you. And you have access to all of them. Now, that may not be in your immediate vicinity, that may not be in your conscious awareness, but you have them. And what we did this morning, which was quite fun, we awakened Roger very early because we do this all the time so that he can get the information. But we had him go to the YouTube channel Gaia, and he's listening to this one guy who's this entrepreneur, had all of these different businesses, really well educated. But then what happened at one point in 2012, because none of you believe that, but anyway, in 2012, he decided that something else was happening in him. He'd been really successful, but this other information was coming through that he knew he had to use in some way. And he didn't understand it because he had access to things, mathematics. He never understood that. Roger never understood how he could access all of this information. And he couldn't believe it, which is why it was difficult for many of you to believe it as well, but he doubted it forever. But we gave him so many things to be ready for today, because this is a very powerful new moon that you each have. And he's very connected to that energetically because of the astrological chart that he chose to be born under, which you all do make that choice, but he chose this and he's aware of it. And so he knew that we wanted him to talk today. He didn't know why. He didn't even know why this date when he picked it. Then he finds out, oh, it's a Leo new moon. Well, yeah, he's a Leo and he has all this Scorpio energy, which means he's been reborn so many times. He understands it. He goes through rebirth. He's done it throughout his lifetimes, and this one as well. Now, but what he does, just like you, and we're using him as an example, as we've always said, he holds himself back. We couldn't get him to get our program to you guys because he wouldn't charge enough money. We told him what it was, but he said, no, can't do that. And so what we did, and this is the shocking part, you'll understand this as we move through it. So about a little more than a week ago, we helped him. We helped him make the change, see, because he resisted. Sometimes when you resist where you're meant to go in your life, or who you're meant to become and what you're meant to embody and bring to the world, because everyone has it, you all have it, you just doubt it at times, or you have been living a life where you have done that continually, but that's okay too, because that means that's what you wanted to change this time. Because if you change it, you not only change it for yourself, but you change it for everyone else. You change it for every person who will come after you, but mysteriously for all those who even came before. Yeah, because they came, they wanted to accomplish things. They didn't do it. You're here to do it. So whatever your lineage is, that's what you are here to do now, to operate. We've told you you're going through a restructuring because you have this imbalance. And then there are those of you who could shift that balance if only you were willing to own yourselves, if only you were willing to accept your gifts, if only you could stop judging yourselves and think something went wrong or that you're wrong. None of that ever happened. It didn't happen. You were just learning things on your evolutionary journey that you didn't get before, so that you could move and ascend to another place, a higher place within you, within your evolution. There's not a one of you alive who could not access and use the power that's within you to completely change your world. Completely. We gave you a message like that just the other day. We had Roger write something because we knew that most of you would look at that and think, no, that's not possible. And that is your problem, because you haven't known of your ability to even direct your life in a way where it could be satisfactory, where you could be loving, where you could be happy all the time. And Roger got so excited, he got so excited about giving you this information that he's doing everything to try to get you to show up. He says, why aren't they listening? Why aren't they paying attention? Because he wants you to understand what it feels like to own yourself. He wants you to know what it's like to no longer be in fear and doubt, where it's just a very different experience, but it takes you putting in some effort. But most of you will run from it. And that's why we said, we put out in the message this morning, we don't understand why many people haven't registered to listen to this. We're not even asking you for money. We're just giving you information. But you're still running away. And we're saying that, and we can say it because that's what Roger has done. And you are here listening to him whenever that might be, because you've done the same thing. You have never been in an accidental place in your life. You've never heard anything accidentally. You've not had any random events that have happened in your life. They're only the ones that you come to understand later, and hopefully to interpret what you gain from those experiences. All the work that we have given you, and we gave it to you in your life operating instructions, all of it was to get you to re-examine everything that's happened in your life so that you could find the brilliance and the magnificence that's in you, because it was born with that. You were born with that. It was not possible. Now, you may have had something that you were judging because you thought it was less than someone else. It's never that. That was just your human thinking. And we're going to go into another thing that we have not done. So, as we said, Roger was not willing to change. He was not willing to move. And we kept talking about the money, you see. And so then about more than a week ago, we sent him a little thing. This was all set up for today. We want you to understand this, because you think things are happening accidentally, and they never are. And so What happened was there was someone who made him an offer that he thought, well, okay, maybe I can do this, because we've been advising him to let go of his vocal coaching and focus on the work that he needs to do now, because your world really needs this. And he knows that. He understands it on a very, very deep level. But like you, he's this doubt. There's a little doubt going on. And so we said, we have to get rid of this. We have to get it to go away now. And you're going to always have it as long as you're alive, because there's always somewhere else for you to go. So anyway, this particular thing that he was doing, he thought he was going to receive all of this money. And it turned out it wasn't going to be that. And he knew that. He tried to leave it and he said, well, let me just see what it is. He also knows that we always give him things that are going to help him. He just figures it out later, just like you. Everything that has happened for you has been for your benefit. We know that's strange for you because you're judging your lives. You think these terrible things happened to me. No, they did not. They were things that you wanted, because when you went through them, it expanded your soul. You became more. Your consciousness, you've expanded, but it doesn't do any good if you don't acknowledge that, you see, because then you go back to your old behavior. You're each working through generations and generations of limited thinking and restrictions and beliefs. That's the way civilizations have always existed, and you happen to be alive, you wanted to be, at this time, because this is a big one. This is a big shift that none of you have experienced, and this is why we've been so trying to get your attention for so long, because it means that you are here to expand in magnificent ways if you just get out of the way and start doing what you know you're supposed to do. And we know that you've been doubting it. You know, you kind of started a little bit and you go a little bit, oh, no, let me hold back. Let me wait a little bit longer. Maybe it'll be a right time later. No, the right time is now. And that's what it is. That's why your world looks the way that it does. We wanted you here today because we wanted you to understand your importance, you see, because you have never understood that. And that message even tells you that you never understood the difference that you are making, not only in just your life, but in the world. And you each make it in a different way, but you have to get rid of all your crap. You have to get rid of all your junk. And so we've decided to perform a miracle for Roger. So when he wouldn't move, because the money thing has always been his Achilles heel, so to speak, that he can hold himself back. And so then we said, we're going to take that away from you, because you're not going to make any money from your voice channel, your YouTube channel, because we're going to take it away. And then we made it even better. And he didn't find that out until today, because we wanted it to be for this presentation. And so he said, well, nothing's been changed on my channel. They just stole it, but nothing's happened. And then today, people are sending him emails. We think your account has been hacked and Trump is on it. And that's what it was. That's what it was, you see. And so this is the thing that Roger knew he had to move over, because he can see everything and everyone as being this wonderful spirit and contribution to your world, but he still had the trouble with Trump. And we said, you have to confront that. You have to deal with it, because see, what you focus on, what you hate, you will bring to you. What you think is horrible, you will bring to you, because you're not supposed to think that. You have to get over it if you're intending to evolve, you see. To give you the big picture here, and as we said, you have always existed, and what you do in every civilization, every time you do exist, what you're trying to do is come to oneness. You're doing it in your life and you're doing it in the world. You never get there. We said that, but you keep trying and it gets a little bit better. But for many years, you have gone off track. We're talking about the entire world. You've gone off track. And so you decided to come into the world to help change it. This is what we've been trying to get you to understand. Everything that we gave you, our work had one goal: to cause you to become your authentic self. And the only way you can do that is when you let go of your judgment. And because your judgments are human, you see, you are spiritual beings and you judge things from the human perspective. And you can't know that. And you just hold yourself back at certain times, and but you do progress. And this is a big progression, but we just wanted to get wanted you to get more excited about what you can do now. You've worked through so much crap. You've worked through so many things in your life, and you're supposed to own that now. That's what's supposed to happen. Because see, when you do that, you then start emitting, you start putting into the world a completely new energy. It's an energy of love and light, and things start to change, and inclusion and acceptance. And this is why we gave you all of this information. So the other night, we're going to go around this because we want you to understand the entire thing. Roger's known all of this for a while, but he couldn't talk about it. Years ago, more than 30 years, we told him about ultimate reality. Ultimate reality. He's not used it recently because he starts censoring. See, we give him information all the time, but he's very clever and he can censor it just like you do. You know how when you pretend you can't hear something, you don't know what you're hearing, then you might not have to act on it. Well, he's been doing this for a long time. He's been doing it for eons, actually. But this is the time where he's meant to change that so that he could offer his information, our work, to the world to cause it to be better. And he can sit and say he knows that if he were to get out of his way and get this out there in the way that he knows he could change the world. Why wouldn't that happen? That's what he had to ask himself. And you each have to ask yourself that same thing, because you have something within you that if you were to allow that to manifest to its fullest, to blossom, to bloom, whatever it is, it doesn't matter what thing it is that you're doing, it would make a difference in your world, and the world starts to change. We told you almost a year ago, we said, stop burning down your planet. None of you were really paying attention, because then now you're seeing that you're breaking every single heat record in the world. Places are burning down. You're starving people in certain places. And you're here, and you would never do that if you were in power, you see, and that power is the power that is within you. We know that you would make a difference. We say this in this way because the people who would not make this difference would never listen to us. They would not be here, but you are. You would never hear us at any other place unless it was part of your trajectory, part of your guidance, where your higher self was leading you so you could hear it. You never end up in an accidental place. Now, we did another thing because we want to say nothing happens in your life accidentally. So last week, a few days ago, Roger was in the kitchen. He stepped on something on his floor in his kitchen, and he lost his balance. He's freaking out, and he tried to grab on, and he went down on the floor straight on his knees. So hard, he had to lay there for a while. He couldn't get up, on his knees. Now, that seems like accidental, and it's not. It's not. We wanted him on his knees. We wanted him to surrender to what he knows he can do and offer to the world so he can help more of you do the same thing. You all do that for one another. You just do it in different levels, but you're all doing it. And so then he decided he had to get a knee brace so he could walk around because he was hobbling. And then this morning we said, okay, well, you know that's not the issue. Last night we had him hear a video where someone was talking about the spiritual connection to your knees. He's in the grocery store listening to this spiritual connection to your knees and being more grounded. He knew that wasn't accidental. Nothing is accidental. Now, we're doing all of this because we need you to know this. Our only goal, our only purpose is for you to know how vital you are in the world now, how important your existence is. But you and again, you see in our program that we had you reinterpret everything. And we have to apologize for Roger at times, so too, because his friend who was in our program called him yesterday in tears. And Roger's laughing. It's like, this is not good. He's laughing because he knew that was a good thing, you see, because the thing, his friend said, I can't get past day 27. I can't get past day 27. And we said, well, why? Because it's an assessment, see, you have to do of your life. He goes, well, I'm a complete failure. That's not possible. We said that's not possible for any of you. You're still in physical form. You're not done with what you're meant to do in this lifetime. We're saying that because you've had many others, but this one you were supposed to do something specific. And so if you're still in your physical body, you're not done yet. So because you can do it. We've given you so many messages about starting again and all of that. So to get you into this idea, this awareness that you're always evolving. So no, you're not going to get everything right the first time. You don't know things, but then you start gaining the information and you have to accept it and move on. And sometimes you can't do that. And Roger couldn't do that. but it also makes him the best person to help the people that need the help now, because as we've said, he's been here a long time. He has this ancient wisdom, and we have not. He's moving closer though. We did have he had someone edit his Akashic Records reading, which we advised him to put out a long time ago, so all of you could see, because we do those things because we want you to understand you're all connected in this way. You just don't pay attention to them because you look at it in hindsight. Hindsight is usually what happens. And we would advise you, and Roger was getting so frustrated with all of this, and we said, please calm down. They'll get it when they want to get it, because none of you will move or do anything until you either get so upset with yourself and so just down on who you are that you decide you got to do something. And he's done that many times in his life. And so he understands that, but he was so adamant about getting more of you to come to this. And listen, we said, please let go of that. You've done that your entire life. And you've got to change. And what he has done, you each have patterns that you've set up, and it's an evolutionary pattern as well. But what he's done, he's given away everything that he's ever had to everyone else so that he could have nothing. And this change that is happening now has to involve all of you deciding and becoming willing to be prosperous. You cannot live in this idea of not having anymore. That's not going to help the balance that you wanted to shift in the world. It's just not. And you pretend like you don't see what's going on, but when you have billionaires and trillionaires basically who are all over your world living in opulence, and then you have people living in huts and starving to death in certain countries, how do you balance that? How do you know that that is okay? You don't. And so this was why things needed to change. But it can't change if you keep making yourself smaller and saying, I don't deserve to have more. I don't deserve to be happy. I don't deserve to have money. No, you deserve all of that. You've done so much, and you've done it to come to this place in your life. And it doesn't matter your age again. We don't care how old you are. Whatever you have done coming to this point, it is valuable, and you're meant to access it now, because otherwise you would not be listening to us. There's no way that you would ever hear a word that we had to say. You've never been in the wrong place. You just have not understood where you were. And so we went further. So we said, he was writing a paper the other night, and he wanted to do some research, and he likes to find things that will give you some historical reference or something that comes from, years ago, we told you how he only listens to doctors and scientists because he feels like those are the people who have all the information, because they are so, educated and studied, and he isn't, because he just receives things from consciousness. He has this ability to just access information from consciousness, and he never accepted it, but he has to now, because that's part of his path, you see. That's part of what he was supposed to be right now, as well as you. You're supposed to be in the same place. That's why you're listening to us. But he kept putting it off. But let's tell you what's happening now. You each must, we're saying that because we're very selfish, and we know the world that we want to see. And we know that if you don't do this, we won't have that world. And that world we want to see is the one that's loving and inclusive and is equal for all. And if more of you do not offer that information by loving yourself and getting rid of your judgment and doing what you came to do, then we have something that is very different in the world. You live in the moment-to-moment existence. Everything here, you have probable realities. We've explained this before. You have probable realities. Nothing in your future is solid right now. We can tell where it's going, though. That's why we keep doing what we're doing, because we can feel the energies of everything, and we know that if we make changes here, we'll get something very different. But it takes pushing Roger a bit more, as he's going to push more of you, because then what happens is you become happier. We have to push you into your happiness. How crazy is that? But that's what it is. And so we told him last week, we believe, he said, please change the name of the program. This philosophy we gave you is your life operating instructions, and that's everything that we use. And that philosophy is very specific. It's the only philosophy the only tenet of that particular philosophy is that every person is equal and every person comes to the world with gifts, and we just help you figure out what they are and own them and live them so that you can live this magnificent life. That's all. That's the only thing we offer. We're not teaching you how to go out and do something, because you have that, you see. That's within you. You just haven't gotten to it. We were very pleased with one of our members who the other day sent this long post on Instagram. They sent it to Roger on Instagram, and it was this long post, all this information that was coming through, and it was shocking to Roger because he never thought that this person given, because he has his judgments, Roger, even though we tell him no, anybody can do this, he thinks, I'm not sure. And this person just made this transition like you can't even believe. And so Roger knew. He says, if more people could do this, wow, we would have a completely different world. And see, but what happens is you hold yourselves back. Now, we gave you another message that we want to put on the screen today. And we want to explain this and why we did it this way. Because you think that certain things are only happening at certain times in your life. No. You are always in a process of evolving. Now, you may not have documented it as well as Roger has, but this is what it was. You can see that in 2018, we had him write something because he was holding that back. He knew that he had this dream in 2005 that he tried to keep hidden. He put it away, he put it in the closet. We had somebody find that. He didn't even find it himself. He had to have his roommate go in, the roommate at the time who was here, come in and find that and show it to him, just like we're showing you what you have. That's all it is, because you put it away. You are so capable. You could do so much if you could just let go of that thing of thinking that you can't. That's all. You each have that ability. So we said to Roger, well, if you believe that you have this ability to do this, why don't you go out and do it? He just argued with all of that and didn't. So as he's writing the paper the other day, we're going to put all this together because we would love for all of you to have it. We want all of you to have it because when you go through it, number one, you will understand what's happening in your world, which is what we've been attempting to tell you. And so Roger went to look for, he said, I have this idea. The idea came from us, of course, but the idea to look for something called the Great Divide, because that's where you are. We told you that a long time ago. We said that you would have to choose, you see, and the choice that you will make, it will be something that will enhance your development, something that will enhance your evolutionary journey. And you're not going to choose as anyone else. You have to choose for yourself. We gave you so much on autonomy because that's where you're attempting to go. You want empowerment and autonomy because that's how you live, being your authentic self. And that's how you have everything that you want. All the love, all the riches, possessions, all the things that you desire would come to you quite easily if you didn't block it by not becoming yourself. That's as simple as it is. And we can say it because Roger has done that so much in his life. And so we said, no, we can't do that. So in that writing that we have, you will see that we said we gave it in 2018 because we knew where you were coming now. We're talking about this because he's had, as we said, he's put it away, but these events in your world are not just happening arbitrarily, and they didn't pop up just recently. They've always existed, but you follow a trajectory in your human development and in your civilizations that if you were to track it and pay attention to it, you would understand what was occurring. And so we set this up quite perfectly. So when he's listening to this one documentary on the Great Divide, which he had never heard, never seen, and then all of a sudden, 2012 made sense to him. See, because you went through another shift in your dynamics in your society, and that was the year, we think we've mentioned this before, that was when you you elected in the United States President Barack Obama for a second term. And in 2012, that was what happened. But then there were many other events that happened during that year as well, because you didn't like what you did. You didn't like putting another Black guy, giving him a second place, giving him another term. That's what you didn't like. So then you mobilize in another area. So let's fight against them now. That's what you've done. And you are here now to say, no, we're going to do something different because we need a different world. Do you think it was an accident that we had Trump's information come onto Roger's channel? It wasn't an accident. That was intentional. And we wanted it to be bizarre. Then went beyond that, you see, because then as he's watching this documentary, he was writing something, and then he decided to go to bed. And he said, well, okay, now I'll listen to part 2 of the documentary because it was in two parts. And so he says, now listen to part two. And as he's doing, and we're going to give you the details here because we want you to know that you're never doing anything arbitrarily and that it doesn't have meaning. You're just being guided. You just don't understand it all the time. But Roger has been doing this so long, he gets it and he can interpret things much quicker. And so as he's sitting there and watching this on his iPad, lying in his bed, he's looking at the date. And he knew, and he resists us here. We said, please go and look at what we told you on that date. And it's so bizarre because this date comes off in the very beginning of the documentary, which he missed the first time, but it comes right up there, January 13th, January 13th, 2020. And this is when he was receiving information from us he didn't understand, but now it's all manifest in your world. It's all here. He's saying it. And so we said, please go and look and see what we told you on that date. And then to his surprise, to his shock, actually, he sees the message and it makes complete sense. But beyond that, he goes and there's a recording attached to it. He has no memory of recording it. He has no memory of making it, but you will all hear it. We will put it together in a way that you can all hear it. Because as he's listening to that, he said, that doesn't even sound like me. It was different because he was receiving other information and he knew we were giving it to him because we're saying, you've got to move now. You have to get ready. You have all been prepared for this time in your lives and in your world. You have all been prepared. And we gave you a message stating that many years ago, but many of you wouldn't remember that, but we have. And we said, you are being prepared, meaning that everything you've moved through in your life was causing your soul to evolve. You see, you just judge it as being terrible. You just judge it as being hardships or difficulties or challenges or things you screwed up. It never happened. It never happened. You were just evolving your soul. As you move through your evolution, because it's yours, it's individual, you have encounters. You have people that you're not going to like, and others that you love, and you have groups that you come and form. That's perfect. But what you need to do, what you have to do now, otherwise, we've said this before, this transition, this restructuring will not be successful for your life or the world unless you decide to let go of your hatred. And this is where we had to bring Roger, because he's had this anger, he's had this hatred, he's gone through more that didn't really have it. He was able to get it down to one person, let's just say, but there are many others. You will all have that. But when you have it, it's not terrible. You're supposed to, because now you can refine who you are. Now let's give you the big picture, because we talk about this quite a bit and we call it fairy tales because we know none of you believe it. But the big picture is you come onto the earth to live your lives. You put yourselves in particular families in different countries, different races, different ideologies. You do all of that, different sexualities. And some of you switch that up because you want to experiment. What's it feel like to be this person? Oh, let's mix them together. Maybe we can do that as well. And that's perfect. Because as humans, you don't evolve unless you introduce new ideas, unless you introduce differences. And then what you're meant to do is look at those differences. You put everything together. Think about the melting pot. We love that idea because that's exactly what it is. Your world is a melting pot. So you put everything in that melting pot and you see how it cooks, and then you come up with something that's better. Hopefully you will like the smell, the aroma of the recipes that you've created. And that's why we're talking. You see, because we're creating that recipe now. And we wanted you to be loving and kind and inclusive and all of that, but you're not going to do that all at once. You have to work through your stuff, and it's a process. And that's why we took you through the process. So we said to Roger last week, we said, okay, change things, get rid of take the program down the way that it is. We want you to call it your last development program. And we said, we want you to call it that because we need everyone to understand that you've been doing the same thing forever. And you're going to keep doing it until you understand that you have the power all within you. It's all there. You don't have to go anywhere to get it. It's all within you. And so, but you don't know how to access it. So what we did was just give you the right questions. We just give you the correct questions. Roger can understand why that was happening because we were doing it to him. This is what we've done with him, isn't most of his the life that he remembers, the conscious life that he remembers in terms of our communication. But we've always been with him, just like your guides have always been with you. You've always had guidance. You just don't believe it sometimes, or you don't accept it, or you're trying to ignore it. That's really what most humans do. You try to ignore it. See, because then, like Roger, and like you see in the dream there, he thought that at the very end, we had him, he wrote it out, he knew it. Right then, he said, maybe I can make this go away. Maybe I can forget that it ever happened. I didn't hear it, it didn't, and he could just forget it. And he knows that's not true. And it's the same for you. It's the same. The thing that we have, the only purpose of our work, when we're talking to you, when we're doing these talks, when we're doing our writings and more, our only purpose is to guide you to your best self, your authentic self, to know that you are so brilliant, you have such gifts, you just don't understand. You don't understand how valuable they are. And then that's why we gave you the message about making a difference. You are making a difference just by existing in the world. But it doesn't help if you don't do something. You see, and that doing something is being willing to embrace whatever it is that you're working on, whatever you came to bring to the world. And each of you have something. There's not possible that you don't. You just may not want to look at it, or it may be challenging or difficult or whatever. But we know that the people who would hear us, we know that you have something of value to bring. Now, we will say that we know that you're seeing many humans out there living in your world who have no awareness of anything that we're speaking about, but that's okay. They're giving you contrast, you see. Those people that you've judged of not having accomplished much, they're giving you contrast so you can see, oh, wait a minute. I have done this. Maybe I can appreciate who I am because I'm comparing, because that's what y'all do. You do it anyway, which is a terrible thing, but you do it. So when you're doing your comparisons, then try to do it in a way where you're acknowledging what you've accomplished rather than just strictly judging everyone else. Acknowledge what you have accomplished, begin to own that and bring it into the world. So as we had him listening to this, he was so freaked out that night, and he still hasn't done it yet, because these things, we shock him, and you will have been shocked yourself, because and the only reason you're shocked is because you live in this third dimensional reality. We've talked about this, and you think that everything has to happen in a sequential way. You live in linear time, and you think that everything needs to go in this order, and you don't understand that none of that matters. You're existing now. Everything exists now. You can change your future by thinking about your present. That's what happens, because you're creating it, you see. You're creating it that way. So whatever you're holding on to, you're going to bring to you. That's why we said to Roger, you're going to keep worrying and talking about this Trump guy. So here, let's put him on your channel. Let's make it happen for you. Because he knows that he has to resolve that, because he can't take this work that we have given all of you. He can't take it to the highest level that we want him to do if he doesn't let go of that. And that's why we did it. He'll get it back. It's going to all be resolved. That's not it. But it was about making the point. And the point is that you are here to own who you are. You have such value. You have such an importance that you were meant to bring. And we will say this because for some of you, and you know this, it's about your families. And some of them you can see, even your immediate family. Some of them maybe not have, been gone, but you can feel that. And some of you have judged yourself because of that. And this is why the person who called the other day was doing the same thing. They hadn't lived up to some ideal of what it is they thought they were supposed to become. And typically for most humans, it's about money, possession, stature, and all of that. We gave you all that information in 2012. We said that doesn't mean anything. What you're here to do is develop your soul. And if you develop your soul and become your authentic self, all that other stuff comes to you. You only use things of a physical or material nature to understand who you are. You make choices that way. We've taken, Roger, we're now working on the next part of the program because we said we want you to work on relationships now. Because you do everything in your life, you come to know who you are through your relationships, unless you decide to become a hermit and go live as a monk and then live in a cave somewhere. Otherwise, you're interacting with other humans, and that's what you wanted to do, because you can't know who you are unless you do that. And it's all of your relationships, and that's why we started in that. You think that it's only your intimate personal relationships, but no, it's all of your relationships, because your earlier relationship, your parents, your families, where you grew up, all of that formed you in a particular way that you created your present intimate relationships. And so when you understand that, then You can decide, oh, well, this is okay, this is cool, or maybe no, this is not allowing me to go where I needed to go. And these are hard choices, but one that you will each make, because what we gave you is the understanding that you are here on the earth to live your life. That's what it is. We gave you that. We said that it's all about you. We gave you a message, and we know that was going to be challenging for some of you to hear, but it is. It's all about you. Why would you want to live your life for someone else? Why would you do that? Now you use those other people to understand who you are. Now, we gave you one, Roger didn't put it out, but we'll do it again. But we were actually going to use it in the last conversation, but he let that go. But it was about the idea of giving. When you're giving, some of you have been in these careers, these professions, or in these relationships, actually, where you have been giving and giving and giving, and you think, oh, well, I'm a victim. That's not possible. It's just not possible. It's not. Because see, when you're giving to another, you're giving to yourself. You just don't recognize it, until later, possibly, but it's not possible. We said you'll get this in increments, as we also gave you. You'll get this in increments, but you start to accept, oh, wait a minute, if I am letting go of my resistance to who I'm becoming, then I can see other people in a different way. And then I'm not judging them and I'm not judging myself. Oh, yeah, that happens. And then if I'm giving somebody something else, that means I'm affirming on a deep level that I have that to give, which means I'm abundant and prosperous if I have all of that, if I can give it to you. So, but you then will take it and think I'm a victim. And then you keep attracting victimhood. You see, so you have to be aware of this. And this is all the work that we've given you. And it's a process that you go through. But once you start changing your brain, oh, your lives just take off because you're not stuck where you were. You've been stuck. And this is the time you wanted to let that go. This is an extraordinary period in your life, and it's an extraordinary period in your world. And we wanted you to make the connection. You would not be alive at this time unless your contribution was going to make a difference and unless it was important. You think that you're insignificant. You are not. None of you are. And we just wanted to give you all of this so that you could begin to understand it. And so when you look at, we had him publish this in one of his blogs or something. He has it somewhere. But anyway, it's about the documentary. And if more of you would watch that, you would understand what is happening in your world now and what will be happening in the next few months, which is why we told you that we wanted more people to stay on our program for longer, because you'll need support. Well, you won't need it, but it's helpful. You don't need anything. But it's helpful for you to have connection and support as you're moving through this period in your life that you don't understand because you've not done this before. You're evolving to a much higher place in your evolution. And if you do it well, so will your world. And we say that if. Because we told you before, the world that you want to see is not guaranteed, which is why Roger gets so anxious, because he says, wait a minute, I have to get more people to do this. And he sometimes feels like he's doing it all by himself, which he is. And he knows that there are many, many others like him who are doing the exact same work because they understand what is happening in your world. And those of you who have that understanding, it's your obligation to bring it to others, because then you start allowing them to feel better. They start loving themselves. They're not in fear. That's the thing that's going to take over for a little bit. Now, where you will move to as why we wanted all of this to start to happen, because see, with this new moon, you have the energy to set your intentions that will more than likely take on a different kind of trajectory and really take off if you place them now with the collective energy that's going on with this Leo new moon. That's what we wanted to say. And if you do that, things will start to change, because you will go through these periods where you might lose some friends, you might lose some family members. We're meaning just in terms of how you feel about them, but that's okay. You only use anyone in your lives, if your friends, all your relationships, to come to know who you are. But as you move through your life, your only responsibility is to know what you're offering. What are you offering to the world? Are you offering acceptance? Are you offering love? Are you offering inclusion? Are you offering non-judgment? And the place that you begin is with yourself. Always. Our work was nothing about, it was nothing else other than that, to get you to understand what you are here to do. And it's different for each of you. That's all. But you're doing it collectively. So as you see what is happening, you're going to have more of the stew kind of come to the fore. And as we said, it's the United States that's leading the way. None of you understood why we were giving you that information more than 2 years ago, but you're seeing it more now. And you will see it as you move into your elections that they have, as they have in the United States, because your divisions will become greater. And then you're going to do something else, which none of you have dealt with. You're going to have to deal with a president of your country who has, you're going to have to decide if you want, are you for laws or breaking them, or you're for the power of one or the power of all. Those are the choices that you're going to make, and that's why you're here. And they're subtle, though, because see, you each have used them in different ways. You have certain people who were, just why we say we don't use religious terms, because you have taken religion and you've used that as a weapon to separate yourself, because you will make yourselves right if you have a particular religion, and you make everyone else wrong and none of that is real. This is why we talked about ultimate reality, and ultimate reality, none of that means anything. And Roger has a memory of that. You see, we told you about his ancient memory. You can go back to where you guys didn't have that stuff, where you didn't create those separations through your laws of religion. And you only created religion with your rules because humans were so out of control. That's all. And so you gave power to certain people, to certain beings, the kings, the popes, the lead, all of those big people, because you thought if you had some guidance, then you would be okay. And that was helpful until you took their guidance as gospel and made yourself less. Yes, there are those individuals who come into your soul, into your world, whose their souls have been here for a while, and they have more information, and they can give you that, and you listen to them, and that's helpful, because you need something that's going to organize your society so that you live in a collective universe that's going to survive. In a collective panel, you have nothing to do with the universe. You only have this planet, your Earth, that you're dealing with. The other stuff is okay, but you're dealing with your Earth, you see. Because that's where you chose to incarnate, because this is the most difficult place. This is the most difficult plane of all existence. There's so many others, but this is one that is the most challenging, but that's why you wanted it. See, because now you get to work through those restrictions. And if you do it, you live a life of bliss. You live happiness. Can you imagine that? Think about that. But you have it within you to do it, but you just sometimes decide not to, because it's uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable. We talked about this a lot, right? It was so uncomfortable for Roger. He's held it back for so many years, more decades than any of you can understand. But you must become willing to be vulnerable, because anything that you're holding back, that you're hiding, is something that is blocking your expansion. We gave you that in your story. We're saying that because we gave you a message in 2012 called Your Story. That's what it was entitled. And in that message, we said that every aspect of your life was perfect. Everything you've done, every word you've spoken, every thought you've had, all of it was perfect, because you needed them to expand, to come to know who you are. But then we gave you the tool, you see, to ask the correct question so you will understand what those events meant. And we're pleased because so many of you have done so well with it, have done so beyond Roger's expectation. We knew, but he couldn't understand, which is the same for all of you. You hold back because you don't know that whatever you're doing or going to put out into the world or create or whatever it might, you just don't know if it's going to be enough. It's always enough. We gave you that one as well. You are more than enough to do whatever it is in front of you. You just have to be willing to do it. That's all that it ever takes. And so we're going to put all of this together, because we're going to send it out, we're going to publish it, and we also we're going to have Roger do a few other things that's going to take this a little bit bigger, and we're going to utilize this whole little YouTube thing a different way to give him a little more notoriety. So we're going to do a few fun things. However, you are here to have fun. You are. All the stuff that you've gone through in your lives, we know it was challenging, terrible, and horrible and all that, but this is the time you're supposed to see it in a new way and then you start to see yourself in a new way. And all of a sudden you start having fun because you don't take yourself so seriously. You don't judge yourself. You let go of that old stuff because you've worked through it. And we know that you have. You just haven't acknowledged it all. But you would not listen to us. You would not be in our vicinity to hear us unless that were true. That's just always the way that it is. And we can say that because Roger, he can tell you how many times he could hear things and decide, no, I'm not going to act on that. I'm too afraid to do that. I'm not going to believe that. Yeah, you've all done that. And it's time to let that go, you see, because it's a different time in your life and in your world. But the thing is, your world needs you. If you don't understand that you want to give more to yourself, because if you become your authentic self, you will have everything you want. But if you don't understand that, maybe get the idea that if you were to do this, it would help your world, because you don't like what you're seeing and it's going to get worse. In human terms, that's what it's going to look like to you. It isn't, however. And so that's why we're going to keep talking about it, to change your interpretation. You can't build something new unless you are willing to let go of the old. It's within you and it's in your world. It's always the same. We gave you a message a long time ago called reckoning, reconciliation, and acceptance. That's what you got to do. You've got to look at where you've held yourself back. This is the reckoning, coming to the place where, okay, I know that I've done this. I've held myself back. I didn't believe this. I can accept that. Then you have to reconcile that. Why did you do it? And then decide, okay, I'm going to work through it. I'm going to figure it out. And then acceptance. And the acceptance part is the thing that gives you the most, and it's the last thing that you do. Because if you would accept who you are, that self-acceptance that we've talked about often, that would be the key. But you don't do that. We don't want you to judge yourself, because none of you do it. Roger's never done it. You never do it because you have to go through this physical life journey, as we've told you throughout all of our messages, this physical life journey which is endemic to you, it's part of your evolution, but you go through this physical life journey where all you're doing is deciding that I'm going to move through this challenge, this difficulty, this misunderstanding, because that's what you all have, misunderstandings of what you've done or what you haven't done. And you have a total misunderstanding of who you are and how powerful you are. And we can't say that enough, because we know that it's within each of you. And you've gone to your churches and your religions and all kinds of things. You go. This is why we made fun of this a little bit, because we said to Roger, why would you need to go anywhere else? Why? It's all the same thing. You have someone sitting and telling you something that you choose not to believe. That's what happens. You listen to it for a while, or you're going to take this workshop and you'll stay on that. That's going to fix it. If you do this weekend workshop, that's going to change everything. And then you come out of it, and then a few weeks later, it all went away. Nothing happened. It's because you're not doing the work. You see, you have the ability. Your human body is connected in a way, and we love this idea. We must go back, and we hope that many of you might go and find some of these talks that we've had references. We'll have Roger do it, but this particular one this morning was on Gaia, and this guy speaking on these different ideas, but then we led him right after that to the World Science Festival. We can't help it. We have to take him there because you each come to do something different, and as we've said, Roger's mission this time is to bring together science, spirituality, and human development. You see, you each have something, and it's in there somewhere, wherever yours is, and different combinations. You have different things. He had all these other talents as well. That's why the music one got him caught, but that's not where he was meant to stay. None of you are necessarily meant to stay where you started. But as you move through, you start understanding this, and then your life becomes so much different. You become so much more evolved, which is the only reason that you're here. So what's happening now is that you're going to have, moving through, we've been telling you this for more than 2 years now, about your restructuring. You're going to have to look at your beliefs, your ideas, your importance, and become willing bit by bit to accept it. That's all. Because when you do that, you're energetically changing the world. We can't say this enough. It's not saying you have to go out and single-handedly do all these things. No, you just have to decide in your presence that you're going to own who you are, that you're going to love yourself, that you're going to decide, oh, wait a minute, I'm supposed to have a happy life. You have the skills to do that. You have all the tools, you have all the ability, you have everything to do it, but you've just not done it. Everything that we gave you in our work in 2012 was to tell you that everything is working through your mind. That's all that it is. Everything, every exercise that we gave you was to change your mind, to have you reinterpret things, because you don't experience anything other than through your perceptions and the ones that you choose to create and keep and believe. That's all that happens. And so in this wonderful discussion with all these scientists on the stage and physicists and neuroscientists, Roger, those are the favorite for him because that's the work that we've done. We use neuroscience to cause you to live a better life. Because when you understand, when you get this information, then you get it. So the person that we had him here listened to this morning said, I don't understand because Benjamin Franklin, I'm getting this information. I haven't lived there with him. You know, this man was very learned. He knew other things, but he said, but this information was very specific and why was it coming through? And we said that was the same thing for Roger. He had the ability, which you all do, but he's just been working at it longer in this vein, but you all have that ability. But everything that has existed in your world, you have access to all that information. It's not in some physical body, it's in the ethers, as Napoleon Hill lovingly referred to it, but it's there. And you just have to say, oh, I can accept it. In your meditation, you get information that comes to you. When you were in school and you wrote a paper, sit down and write an essay. Where did that come from? You have consciousness that allows that information to come in, and you have the ability to accept it or reject it. And most times you're rejecting it because it's unfamiliar. We get told the story again about your birth, you see, because you've carried around this fear of the unknown, which unfortunately is something that humans will go through in this experience, because you have this gestation period that you must go through in terms of the human body to be formed. And so you're in the mother's room typically for 9 months, as should be the average, but whatever period of time, you're in that womb. That time that you're there, you're feeling safety. You're feeling protected. Everything's given to you. You're feeling nourished because you were. And then you're thrown out into the world and you start yelling and screaming because why do I want to be here? But you did, because you came into the plane, this time, this earth plane, so that you could work through these 3-dimensional things that you had not done before. You see, that's why we don't want you to judge yourself, because yes, you're going to have challenges, you're going to have difficulty, you're going to have roadblocks, but you wanted them, because now if you work through them, you start to create your life this time in a much different way, and you have everything that you want. But then also the next lifetime, you won't have to go through that stuff again. That's really the way that it works. And it's hard to accept that we understand. But Roger, and this is why Roger wouldn't talk about it so much, because it was challenging for him, even though he was receiving all of this. And so, but all of the stuff that we have given you is for one purpose. You have to know how great you are. You have to come to know what you have to offer the world, because we want you to do that, because we know that if you do, we will stop seeing what is going on now. And it will take time to manifest. But if you're diligent about it, you see, if you stay with it, because we gave you that many years ago, as you remember, we've talked about it often, practice, patience, and persistence. You can do that with anything in your life and in your world. And there was a big thing that happened yesterday, because as we keep putting out the energies of doing something different as humans, doing something different in your world so that you don't burn it down. And it is related to everything that you do with how you utilize things of a physical nature. And a lot of it, your cars do that, your trucks, because you don't think about it, because it's only about, oh, am I comfortable? Can I do what I need to do? Not understanding that you want to live in a way that your world continues to expand and evolve and prosper for those who come later. So it's not a selfish act to start to look at all of these things. And it's never a selfish act for you to start to take care of yourself. And that's why you're here. Because we know that you would do something different. You would put in different initiatives. So just the other day, as we're putting out all this information, and we've talked to you about, burning down your planet, then the one person in the United States who was holding back that progression, and it's still not done, but at least it's movement. But now people are starting to pay attention, because at some point you have to stop denying things, when you're flooding out everything. You had record floods in, well, we believe it was your state of Kentucky yesterday or something. One of them, it doesn't matter because they're going on all over. You had it in Australia. We gave you that one. They're everywhere. And then other places are burning down and people are losing their houses. And had Roger see this heart, he just cried watching this one person who didn't have anything. They had no insurance. They had nothing. And the man is in the ashes crying because he's recognizing he's lost everything. He didn't prepare. He didn't do anything. Many of you have done that. And so now it's a time, the physical stuff doesn't mean anything. We've spoken of that often, and some of you will have more attachment to that. Roger doesn't, which is why he was able to let go of the material things much easier. He let go of his car even. He let go of so many things, but he's done that before. It's not a big deal. And because the physical things you start to understand don't mean anything. They don't cause you to become more empowered. They can cause you to look a certain way to other people if that's what you need, but you never feel fulfilled that way. The only way you feel fulfilled in your life and have everything you want is truly where you're not, really in this distress, is when you allow yourself to become and embody your authentic self, because it was given to you for a reason. For your reason and for the world. Now, we want you to understand that, because there's two things, as we said in the beginning. Your reason is that you wanted to develop and work through your old self, whatever that is, in your evolution. But you're also, when you take that action, when you do those things, you see, you're adding this energy to the world that shifts everything. It will shift everything, but you're not going to get there right away. But if we work diligently, then it could happen, you see. If we stay with it. And this is what we told him, and many you don't, he doesn't even know this because we just gave it to him just a few minutes ago, but we told him, we want you to start the program again on Monday. We want you to get it together. You have everything. He doesn't need anything now. So he just needs to put it together in the way that he knows that it will work the best for all of you. And we're going to put it there. We're going to make it something different, different price, because we gave everyone the opportunity, but we have to raise it because none of you are putting value on yourselves. So and you don't put value on those other things. And so that has to change because it's gone on too long. That's why you're going to see this. There's talk of the recession. It's fears everywhere. And there's certain things that have happened in different parts of the world that have caused this to be a little more real in the purview of so many people. However, if you were to think something different, because that's where all your power is, if you were to think something different, you could change all of that for yourself and for the world. There's no reason for you to have a recession. There's no lack of money or wealth or resources anywhere in your world. All you have done is that you've allowed certain people to have them, and then you don't accept what you could have. That's all that's happened. And we're saying that because it's happened in every generation and every nation and every race of people, everything. You've done that. And then there was something wonderful that was on that Roger saw a glimpse of the other day. He goes, oh, that's different. I heard someone talking about color, this colorism thing that you have. And she says, well, and this is a Black woman. She says, no, but in my race, they make differences because of the skin tones. You all do that. It's just hysterical because they mean nothing. And we want you to understand this, because you've done this throughout your lives, all of you. And unless you let go of this judgment about it or not understanding what you've done, your world just kind of keeps imploding, because that's what goes on. When when you're younger, you had your depending on where you lived or where you grew up, but if you went to school, you had a particular school. Your school was the best, no matter what it was. If it was your grade school, your high school, then you went to high school. That's when it got more interesting for many places, depending on what country you lived in. We're speaking from the United States, but when you go to high school, then it becomes, okay, this is my high school. Now we have rivals, and you could be living in the same city, right? You could all be living in the same city, but my school is better than yours. My school. Then you take it bigger. Then you're going to go into your national competitions. Now it becomes a different ball game. The people who were at one point saying in high school, saying it's my school, now you're finding different ways of coming together because you have common ground now. Oh, we're going to fight against these people because we have this common ground. We have this. But you see, you're doing the same thing. All you do is form different groups to compete against one another, when all you're doing ever is competing against yourself. Because as we said, you're all one. You just do these civilizations so that you come to find that. So you kind of discover that, and you're doing it again now. And many of you are worried about, is the world going to blow up? Am I going to die? No, that's not going to happen. But you will have a choice as to how you live. That's the big difference. You can live in the fear of death and all of those things happening, and that which doesn't happen, and then you use that as an excuse to stop living your life now. You can only live in the moment. You can't worry about all of those other things. Live in the moment. That's where all the beauty is. That's where all the magic is. And that's where your imagination can take over and create and manifest whatever you want. You just have forgotten that you had the ability to do that. There were many, we love this thing we had Roger see, he's still going to go back and put it together, because they're saying, well, we just discovered this part of the brain and how it works in this way and causes us to do that. But we still haven't figured out. They had a wonderful demonstration where they just had some activity going on. They were showing it on the brain scan, a CAT scan, we believe it was. And so they were showing that, and there was just some brain, and you couldn't understand what it was. There was just activity going on in your brain. And then they developed this machine that could take that activity, and then they interpreted it into words. And then the words came out. But what we had there before in the brain was just gobbledygook. You see? And so you as humans, you keep trying to figure out how this works. And we've told you, and you'll find more of this, but your brain is just physical thing that you have that performs functions. But it doesn't do it independently. It takes it from you. But see, then you have something else. You have mind. You have a mind. Mind is connected to all that is, or God, or Gaia, or whatever. That's mind. That's different. It's not attached to something physical. And you each have equal ability and talent to be able to utilize that if you choose to do so. And we're going to keep moving in this direction, because this is where things were meant to move in Roger's life, and in yours as well, at this time, if you choose to do it. And we have to say that, because not all of you will do it. We'll just say, and then you will end up 5 years from now, 10 years, look, why didn't anything change? Because you did not change. We just want to say, you have, all of you have everything within you to manifest this magnificent life, if you understood what it was, and if you were willing to change your old programming. Now, some of you have had difficulty changing and accepting any of this, and you don't want to see anything, and we understand that. But we want you to also understand that it's not your fault. What we mean is that you've come in different ways. You come in with a trajectory, or with a DNA that was from your families, your parents, and even if you don't know them, but it's in there. And so some of those older societies and countries, some of those have very old beliefs, and you may be bringing in something different this time, and so it's challenging for you to accept that, and you're not understanding why you had all these blockages. You chose them because you wanted to move through them, because you knew that if you moved through them, you would help all those who come later, come after you, but also it changes that whole history that you have had. We've given you that many times too, that you can change your history, because you change it in the moment. You change it in your present, because the only way your history only affects you, is only pertinent to you by the way you choose to think about it. And if you're thinking something went wrong and you did something terrible, you become a terrible person. That's all. But then conversely, if you change it, then you become this great person. And that's our only intention. That's all that we've ever given you. And that's all the work that is there. And we wanted to bring it all together today. And we'll, again, put something out later where we're going to have Roger put all of this. And it's not about him. It's about, we want you to understand the work that we have given him that you could have. It's up to you what you do with it. But we want you to understand that. But we want you to understand you. That's always been our main intention. You have a divine plan, whatever term that you have become accustomed to, whatever that might be. You are not here accidentally. You are here for a very important, valid reason, and especially because you happen to be alive during this period of restructuring of your world. because it couldn't happen without you. It couldn't, because you need the world needs all these different things to come in, and you were part of it. And so that's what you're supposed to accept now. That's what you must accept now. And we know there's some of you who have not even seen what is going on in parts of your world. So you can kind of stick your head in the sand and think nothing is happening. And then you wake up later and then you start blaming everyone else. You all do that. It's a funny human thing that you do. You'll go along and ignoring everything that's going on. And then things start to go terrible. And then you come back and say, wait a minute, my politician did this. No, it was you. It was you, because you each have the ability to manifest what you want. You each have the ability to create the worlds that you want, because no one has more power than you. We've said it over and over again. There's no hierarchy of souls. There just isn't. And that's why we want you to understand mind. Everything we gave you in our program was about you using your mind. And we're so pleased, again, with how many of you have taken that and shocked Roger, because he had low expectations, as you all do. And he was surprised at what was coming through. That's what happens for all of you. And we wanted you to understand that today, because, again, what you plant, what you decide to do will have this added energy, this extra ingredient of energetic galactic energy that you could use to manifest the world. That's what's happening. And to get to there, you're going to go through, as we said, some other things. However, see, our plan was this. We knew, this is why we started in 2012, you see, because we could see everything that was happening and where it was going to lead to. We could see all of that, because you can, and you all can too, but you just pretend that you can't, because if you take certain actions, you're going to have this result. So if you do that, in this big way collectively, yeah, things can get a little crazy. But the part that we wanted you to understand, why we wanted you to hear this, because we wanted you to know the difference you can make. And it only requires you to become happy. That's all. We get that it's some work to get there, but it means that you start owning who you are. You love yourself. You start living what you were meant to. That changes your world. That's why we've been anxious. And you remember many months ago when we said Roger would come in, and he was so anxious, and he was just had all this energy go, because he could feel what we were giving him, the urgency to move, so that you could start to do something a little different. And we're doing it again now. We're doing it at this time because we need a few months before we get to November, leading up to that time, because in the United States, they will lead the way again. And there will be many things that are happening. And you're going to have a president who's going to be dealing with circumstances that no US president has ever dealt with. So you're dealing with something that none of you have done, just like all the events that are happening. None of them have occurred before. So you don't have a frame of reference for a lot of them, but you will, because you're here to create them. And that you will understand. You will absolutely understand, because you have so much power and ability and talent lying dormant, as it's been for so long, but now it's ready to come through and blossom. And we're so happy for any of you that we are able to provide you some confirmation, some help, something that's going to allow you to believe in yourself. But that's all we ever do, is to cause you to believe in yourself a lot more. That's all that this is about. And we are just so pleased that you have even decided to listen. Regardless of what you do, just your listening is presence. And if you take in any of it, your world has changed. And the more people that will do that, we can make a bigger difference. And that's what we want Roger to do at this point. But we have given you so much today, and we want you to contemplate it all. And as we said, we'll help Roger put all of this together, because he had these incidents the other night, but it was so shocking to him how these things were coming together, just like certain things might be shocking for you. And we want you to be prepared. You'll have these things showing up that it's surprising. And they're going to be about you, that you didn't know you had, but it's perfect, because that's why you are here. But what we would like to do now is, we don't know if we have anyone here for questions, but if there are, we will take those. Otherwise, we will get the recording to all of you and all the other information.
Yeah, we are complete today.
Oh, great. Okay. Okay. Wonderful.